Next, I would like to invite our speaker to talk about the China risk-oriented solvency system. Let's welcome Ms. Grace Jiang, who is the leading partner of the PwC China Actuarial Service.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I heard a lot about diversification in the morning's conference, but actually we do have a diversified team from China. So like Zhang Yao is from the regulator, right? And then Li Qi is from the reinsurance company, and I am from consultant. And we also have Xiao Lei, and he's Secretary of General of the CAA in China. The reason actually I want to mention that is I was checking. This might be the first time China had such a big team join the ICA conference. The point is also, yes, COVID is gone, right? So we are free to travel, that's one point. But more importantly, we want to take the opportunity to have some more sharing in this platform to help people understand China. Because I do feel sometimes it's just lack of understanding about the market, and this understanding will help us to have a better communication and more sharing, because I feel actuarial profession is the way very kind of can be globalized, share, and not like a tax, not like an accountant. You have a lot of the local requirement, but actually the same we can share globally. So that's this really I'm very touched. You know, we have this chance to be in this ICA conference. Just a little bit introduce of myself. So yes, I am the actuarial partner lead the Chinese actuarial practice, and also I have two more hats. One is I was working for, as a volunteer, working for Xiao Lei as in CAA, and I'm actually the standing committee member, and then my motivation is try to bring up actuarial skills or influence in the insurance field, because I do feel the actuaries have been working so hard, but we need to have more influence in the management team. So that's one of my motivation taking this role. That's one. The second is I'm also in the education committee in CAA because you know, education become more and more important as a CAA role in China. And we have two kind of the committee chairs, right? One is from university, and she will be more focused on the university type of the work, and I'm from industry, so kind of the joint work. So we make the education be fitting into the university education system. Meanwhile, we want to make sure our education will bring in industry demand on what the new skills will be needed for the actuarial professions. So that's a bit of introduction at the beginning. And let's come to the C-ROSS. I just wondering, how many of you heard about the C-ROSS? Wow, that's quite a lot. I'm happy. So C-ROSS is actually China risk-oriented solvency system. And it's very, very important. And I actually have been heavily involved in this project in the last, I would say, 10 years. When I was started the project together with what we called another, I don't know, you heard about the Zhao Yulong. He's kind of the person designed the whole framework of the C-ROSS. And they're so happy and so challenged, because if you want to design a kind of the system, a solvency system, follow US Solvency 2 or follow the RBC, that's easy, right? Because we technically just follow that structure. But it's more important, we want to make sure the solvency regime will work for the market. But China is so different market from the European matured market. So how we come up a solvency regime really suitable for China, it's very, need a lot of the kind of the smart or wisdom in design structure. So I do feel I was growing up a lot during the whole project. I also want to share a little bit on the China market. I know Zhang Yao shared a lot of the data. Hopefully we can reconcile the data. So a few things. One, China, on the left top side, you do see the insurance premium. It's actually big. Maybe you can compare the numbers on this board with the numbers you have seen in your country. But basically, this is quite big numbers for the whole market. And then Second table is for the new insurance premium. If you look at the life and the P&C, we still have like 7% growth for the life over the last 10 years, and the 12% for the P&C in the last 10 years. And the insurance, even based on that type of the growth, the insurance penetration is actually less than 4%. We compare with the Vietnam, India. I do feel we are better than Vietnam, right? So we should have a higher penetration. But right now, if you look at the number, it's actually close. So that means we have a still large potential for the further growth in the insurance premium. If you compare the GDP, China GDP in the last 10 years is about like 8%, but insurance is about 10%, so it was slightly higher than the GDP growth. So that's what we have so far. Second, these slides I like very much. One thing I want to say, China, if you see the growth is very big. On the left top side is a premium growth, right? It's very big growth, but we are so young. We are so young. I know you have the Actuarial Society over 100 years, but insurance law was introduced in 1995, so less than 30 years. Literally, we have less than 30 years experience, right? And also the CRRC was set up in 1998, 25-something years. So we are 30 years old or 25 years old, it depends on how you define that. So if you look at the history of this, that we have, and you have such a rapid growth, that's amazing, I would say. This is amazing. In the way, the market demands is very little, but we are growing up, right? So it's very amazing markets. So we have 4 stages. I cut. One is actually, if you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So the first stage, we basically set up some of the insurance laws, basically set up some very early rules. And the second stage is we are kind of the opening for the foreign players, 2000 to 2010. I checked also for the Australian. So you guys actually entered in 2000 as well. There was joint venture, Bocom. What's it called? Bocom, actually they joined in 2000. We set up the joint venture company. And Allianz is earlier than 2000. AI is pretty earlier. Manulife is very earlier. But generally, between 2000 and 2010, we have more than 10 joint venture joined in China. So that's the second stage. The third stage is kind of very rapid growth in China. You see it's very deep on the growth. But most of the, the business is coming from the high saving type. It's like a 3-year, 5-year, saving endowment stuff. So it's very high growth on the asset side. But in terms of the contribution to the value, it's not that much. So the fourth stage is we are facing at the moment is kind of, the market is growing very rapid, and now we are facing about how to make the market more healthy and a higher quality. So that's why we have focused on the solvency, risk management, quality enhancement for the agency force stuff. So that's kind of the cycle of the market development. Grow and be more higher quality. I think that's the reason I'm sharing this is because we cannot compare the China with the mature market. It's just simply different. So you come up with some regulation requirement, and also you need to consider the market situation, market environment, conditions before you come up with the regulations, right? So where we are now, so right now we are in the stage of, we're facing the similar issues as you have possibly. We are in the interest rate is coming down as to 3-4%. For the listed company like AI, like China Life or Ping we have a lot of the questions from the financial analyst about, I question why you have such high interest rate assumption, because they use 5% or something, so they question the 5% should be lower. So basically we are observing for the interest rate change, and if that comes a longer duration term and the interest rate might be adjusted. So that's the low interest rate side. And the second is, I think Jiang has also mentioned a little bit about the classified regulation. How to say, it's very important because China is big. It kind of, if you want to have one size fit all, it's very difficult. Because look at the insurance we have, right? So Ping An is already in the top 500 of the world. But we have smaller ones, only 1 or 2 years, experience. They are surviving. They are trying to find a way they can grow. But how we can, come up with a one-size-fits-all is challenge. So that's why classified regulation might be needed in different regulation field. For example, solvency is one. You may not be able to have the one requirement for all the players. So that's one. Last one, I also mentioned, because we are in Australia, in ICA, so globalization is also the thing we are looking for from the top regulator and also for the players. We do have a lot of the experience in China, like Li Qi mentioned about the critical illness table stuff analysis. All those good experience could be shared with other players in globally. So that's we have the plan of going more beyond China for the globalization. So let's take a look on the C-ROSS. So look at the schedule we have. It's started from 2012. Look at 2012 to now is about 10 years, right? So you will feel, wow, compared with Solvency II, 10 years is very short time frame. Yes, I agree. But if you look at the history of China, so in total we have 25 years history only. So 10 years is really a lot. It's a long duration for the whole exercise. And because I was luckily and heavily involved in the phase 1 and the phase 2. So phase 1, we spent about 4 years, kind of do a lot of the analysis. And then I think the most beauty part is we spent about 1 year understand the framework of the Solvency II and the RBC. We had so much debate internal within the market and the player about should we follow Solvency II or should we follow RBC or what. But eventually we actually decided we should have our own kind of the framework or regime fit the China market better. So that's kind of the phase 1. We come up the 2017 we effective for the phase 1. And then honestly, the 2017 we have the phase 1 effective. And then in the next few years, from 2017 to 2020, we are not like stop there and waiting. We do a lot of analysis, try to understand how the players will absorb and how this will be implemented, landed in the players in China, right? We look at the result of the large or medium and the small players and see whether or not, kind of how to say, we have a technical stuff, formula stuff, and you landed in the industry. But you want to see the result, whether or not the result makes sense. Because China, as I said, China is pretty young. So you don't know this technical stuff landed in players will be reasonable or not. If you compare company A and B, whether or not the result will be explained by their business. So we have done all these things in the last few years. And then 2021, we gradually come up with the phase 2. So we have a lot of the revisions from the phase 1 to phase 2. So I would say, if you compare C-ROSS with Solvency II, we were joking. The Solvency II, like, oh, you stay in the room, you do a lot of analysis, debate, and then after 20 years or something, you said, oh, maybe this is ready for the market, and you dropped out and then go to the market. But the C-ROSS is kind of, yes, let's start something a bit general and a bit, let's say, rough or whatever, and then spend 4 years, right? We come up with something, and then we go to the market, and the let market test that, and the test and the check and analysis result, and then we revise. So this is the kind of the pretty the pace we are following for the regulation, and also it's kind of the agile process. We go to the market, adjust, and then test again. So I do feel this is a closer, more focus on the regulation and how that connect with the market. Okay, I need to move a bit faster. So this is a framework we have. Not that much, you must be familiar. So we have Pillar 1, Pillar 2, and Pillar 3. Want to say for the Pillar 2, we had some questions in terms of whether or not you have the formula calculation for all the risk. One thing is different from the mature market is, for example, you have the operational risk and the strategic risk. Because in China, it's just the profile change so rapid. Like you have business portfolio 3 years ago and now might be totally different. The channel mixture will be changed. The product mixture will be changed, which means you cannot use the historical data to kind of represent your current situation. It's just the business itself is changing so rapid. So that's why for the pillar 2, we more focus on the compliance, build up the risk management awareness in the team, in the company. So we use a Samara. I don't know if you heard about this. Samara system is more focused on the, you need to have this function, this function, this function, and we have rating for different players or on the different functions. So based on that, this is as step number 1. And then build up the awareness, gradually build up the awareness of the management team. Because otherwise, the top management team will be more focused on the growth. They always focus, I need 10% of growth, I need 20% of growth year and year, right? So they just focus on the growth. But with this awareness build up, it's just a step-by-step process and helping them, the management team, focus on the risk management. This is a risk we included, but I think this is not new for you. And this is the only formula I have in the slides, but it's kind of we have how we come up with the solvency ratio, right? And then, I mean, nothing really special, but one thing just want to mention is for the stress testing, for the ratio calculation. Why stress testing? Stress testing in China will be more important than a mature market, because it's not only about the interest rate change in the market, but also about the business portfolio change. Because as I said, the portfolio change rapid, and secondly, because of the experience data, like the claims data. Li Qi mentioned about the critical illness analysis, right? Like every few years, we will revise the tables. I don't think this is very common in your country, possibly. Revise the tables is so frequent, but this is really needed in China, because it's not only because of population change, but also because of a technology change, health check change stuff. All this combined will make the experience data very different. So if we look at the data year by year, it's just very different in the market. So that's why stress testing is very important. So a little bit on the phase 2, we have already the phase 2 is actually already effective from beginning of the last year. So 2022 is the first year we have the phase 2 effected. I don't know if you heard about this, but some of the financial analysts was talking to me, said, did you realize the China solvency ratio getting more lower than before? Is that because of the solvency, the phase 2 is implemented? So I think this is a very difficult question, but it's a very complicated question. It's not that easy. Multiple reasons caused the solvency ratio drop in 2022. Certainly one of the reasons, technically analysis, one, because of the interest rate drop. So apparently when the interest rate drop, you have the pressure on the solvency ratio, right? The one. The second is in the phase 2, we do the regular data calibrations because we do the calibrations after a few years with more data in the industry. After the data calibrations, some of the risk factors will be revised, particularly on the asset side and on the critical illness side because of the higher risk factor applied to your business, and then your solvency result will be changed automatically. So that's kind of some key reasons impacted the solvency ratio in the industry. I need to catch up a little bit on the time. I maybe just skip some of the slides. We do have a lot of the good stuff, but yeah. I want to mention this last slide, more interesting to you maybe. The one is mutual recognition. How to say that? As I said, we are young, 25 years old, but we want to be with part of the global world for this insurance business, right? So one of the important things is capital requirement when you're entering into the market. So if you have your capital or solvency requirement and China solvency requirement are different, which means if you open your business in China, you need to calculate the solvency requirement in the local market and in your group countries, right? So that actually will cause some higher administration cost if you have two different systems. So we are basically trying to, if anybody will be interested in entering into the China market, it will be important for you to understand the local capital requirement compared with your countries, right? So if you're interested in this topic, let us know, and we will be happy to share some details. But generally, the point is we try to have some mutual recognitions on the capital requirement, because the whole framework, I would say the C-ROSS will be a little bit like Solvency II, but within the details is quite different, calibrating the local market environment. So that's one, the mutual recognition. The second is the foreign players. As I said, early slides, right? So 2000 to 2010, there are a lot of the foreign players be in China. I would say they didn't feel they are very growing rapid in the last few years. And some of the foreign players left China, not much, just a few. But start from 3 years ago, I noticed, and then there are more foreign players are interested in China, because some of the reason I mentioned now is in the stage of improving the quality of the business and enhance the products towards the annuity products and protection type, and enhance the your sales force management, your product design, and your investment strategy stuff. So all these changes are really more connected with a global practice of focusing on the quality of the business. So I see a lot of the, maybe not a bit sensitive, but so I don't mention the names, but we do see a lot of the players are started to relook the China market again. But also, I had experience of helping quite a lot of the foreign players do the China market entry strategy, right? So 10 years ago or 20 years ago, basically, that time they are a little bit like everything branded as China is good. They just go. So they don't look in a very detailed level, but now they are more, they are more careful, they are more cautious about entering the China. So they want to know the regulation, particularly they want to see what is the impact, what is the pattern of the regulation, right? And they also want to know the entering strategy of, okay, what am I going to do in this market? What is my channel strategy? What is my geographic expansion strategy? Where should I start my business with, right? And then what is my high technology strategy? All these things. So they are more focused on the details. I think this is really good. This is really good because this is the way you should do, right? Once you have more understanding of the market, what you want from the market, you will have better behave or awareness of what you want to invest. So that's the thing I want to say. And then the last thing is not it's kind of the last point is about what is impact to the local players of adopting the C-ROSS phase 2. I would say the several fields I noticed. The one is actually the product strategy. Previously, back to maybe 2 years ago, if you look at the China's financial reports of the large or medium ones, the solvency ratio is like 200 or 300 or something, like the China Life, Ping An. If you look at their data, financial report, solvency ratio is so high. So with that type of the solvency ratio, when they prepare the products, they don't care about the capital requirement for the typical products because they just have plenty of the free capitals, right? So, but now, because they have very tight on the capital shortage, so they are more focused on, okay, when I design particular specific product, what's the capital needed, and then I do the capital planning in the early stage when I come up with the business plan with a different product portfolio mix. So that's on the product side, and they do better on the capital management. And the third is they will be more focused on the investment asset allocation strategy. So all this is obviously we see the changes of the market. Sorry, my time is running off. but that's not that much interesting, I think. Okay, thanks a lot for listening. Thanks.